I picked up my violin, I put the bow to the strings, and not a sound came out. There were at least 100 people in the audience. Something was coursing through my veins that has never been there in the last 15 years. I couldn't open up my arm, my fingers wouldn't move. My 15-year streak of performing on the violin without any stage fright had come to an end. This was a mere 6 months ago. What happens to you when you come up here to speak? Do you sweat in places you didn't think was possible? Do you have to go to the bathroom again? Does your heart race, jump into your throat, and make it impossible to speak? I had a situation. I had 100 people waiting for my sound to come out of my violin. What was I going to do? Luckily, I wasn't the only one on stage that day. I had 3 other friends playing with me. We were playing a string quartet. And they were all doing just fine, except for the quizzical looks on their faces, looking over at the first violin chair, wondering what the heck was going on. To keep the music going, I followed along. I moved as best I could. It felt awful. And I knew that I had to do 2 very important things during this process. Number 1, whatever was in my bloodstream was just going to have to run its course. And number 2, I was going to need to remain mentally neutral. There's no way I could berate myself, get upset. I just had to let it happen. By the 3rd page of music, I was done. It ran its course. I was able to function, and I played the rest of the concert. As you can imagine, at the conclusion of this concert, I had quite a bit of reflecting to do. Welcome to Toastmasters. Come on in. Thanks for coming. My reflection first was, and primemost, what happened? Why did this happen? I have had a 15-year success rate. Well, I'll tell you what happened. I did something different at this concert. I did the pre-concert lecture. I walked right up, talked to the audience, we laughed, we learned, and then I gave myself no time to switch gears. I sat right down and went right into the music. I've practiced speaking, I've practiced violin, but never had I put the 2 together in this way before, and it didn't work. I had not practiced it. The other reflecting was about what went well in the previous 15 years. And this is what I'm going to share with you today, because we all want to persist and have our dreams come true. And I believe that's part of why you're here at Toastmasters. I came up with 4 points that all start with the letter P, that all were paths that I had traveled for the last 15 years, took for granted, obviously, didn't heed my own advice at this particular concert, and I paid for it. The first P, performer's role. I play the violin, I teach the violin, I come here, I speak at Toastmasters, but what is behind that all? What's fueling my fire? What is that golden nugget? I share. I've known this about myself for many, many years. That's my mission, that's been my role in my life, most of my life. I share, and I have chosen these particular vehicles as my places where I share. But what is your role? Do you know what it is? What drives you? What is your golden nugget? If I didn't know what that was, I couldn't come up here. I would be quaking in my boots. But Just knowing that alone gives you a reason to be up here. The second point, practice. I had obviously practiced my speaking, I had practiced my violin playing, but I hadn't practiced putting the two together. One of my favorite pieces of advice from one of my violin teacher trainers was to practice whatever you're going to do a minimum of 15 times. The first 5 repetitions, you can think your way through anything. The second 5 repetitions, your mind relaxes and your body takes over. And those repetitions might not go as well as the first 5, and you might start scratching your head and wondering, why am I repeating? I had it the first 5 times. But if you proceed to the last 5 times, that's where the magic happens. Your body and your mind come together. You're able to coordinate. Whether you're playing the violin or speaking, you're still using your body and your mind. And they become integrated, and you have the confidence you need to deliver whatever it is you need to deliver. The third P, physical release. We're humans, which means we all are wired with the fight or flight response, whether we're in real danger or perceived danger. And many people perceive public speaking as a dangerous sport. Our bodies react. A physical reaction needs to be met with a physical action to counteract it. For example, let's start with that fight or flight stance. This tendon between your ankle and your knee will tense up. That part of your body gets ready to deal with this situation. So rub behind your ankle and behind your knee, and you're going to find a very sore spot back there. It's really sore, all right? So these spots, you want to make sure that you really dig in and stretch out, rub them out. Do these calf stretches, pump the back of your ankle. Do that a few times the morning before you have to speak. Do you already feel a shift? You also will want to choose your own physical release. For Jeremy, it might be running 5 miles. For Patty, it's yoga. And I bet for Ron, it's laying on the floor and doing deep breaths. So, choose your own physical release. Have fun with it. And make sure that you do it within a few hours before you perform. Performer's mindset. You know what your performer's role is. You've done your practicing. You have your physical release. It's now time to actually perform. What there is to do is to go back to that performer's role and immerse yourself. I'm sharing with you right now. That's all I'm thinking about. At the same time, we're going back to what I talked about initially, which is the neutral mind. We all have the little judgmental voices in our head. Oh, that was terrible. Oh, that was good. Those are great when you're practicing, but when you're in performance, they are not helpful. Acknowledge these thoughts, but to say thank you for sharing, I'm moving on. Don't push them aside, because the more you push them, the more present they become. Just let them happen, but focus on your performer's role. I'm thankful that I had this uncomfortable experience 6 months ago. It was a wake-up call. I will not take things for granted. I will heed my own advice for the rest of my life. But what really excites me is getting to know all of you. As you can use this information in your own way, and you come on up here and speak, and let your golden nugget shine.